The best way to ruin a Christmas dinner? Invite a buried grudge, 3 years of lies, and a fiancé who has no idea his partner is celebrating with an axe. My wife thought she was giving me an ultimatum. In reality, she just gave me the best holiday present, a reason to act. My name is Ethan, I'm 29, and I've been married to Courtney for 4 years. Our life in Metropolis City seemed to be following the classic, if slightly dull, script: career, mortgage, plans for kids. This Christmas Eve was supposed to be typical. Parents Alice and George hosting their traditional feast at their Brookwood home. My sister Caitlin and her children, general chaos, and of course, Mom's signature apple pie. Everything changed 2 weeks before Christmas on a Tuesday evening. I was making chili, my anti-stress dish. Courtney was perched on the kitchen island, scrolling through her social media feed, and in an utterly nonchalant tone, she dropped the bomb. "Hey, I invited Ryan to your parents' Christmas dinner." I froze. The spoon, suspended with chili, hung in the air. "Ryan? Your ex? Ryan Warner?" She finally looked up from her phone, her eyes bright and unperturbed. "Yes, he's going through a bit of a rough patch right now. He and Tiffany broke up and he's alone in the city. I thought it would be nice." I need to provide some context. Ryan was her college boyfriend from Camden Hills campus. They dated for 3 years, breaking up about 6 months before Courtney and I met. She always insisted they were just friends, and the breakup was mutual. I'd only seen Ryan twice. Both times he was impeccably polite, but there was always this irritating, closed-off energy between them, like shared laughter over jokes I didn't get, or a look that lasted a second longer than propriety demanded. "You invited your ex to my parents' family dinner without even discussing it with me?" I asked slowly, trying to keep my tone level. She fixed me with the look I hated, the patronizing, judgmental one. "Ethan, don't be so insecure. Ryan and I are just friends. And don't start. I already talked to your mom. She said it was perfectly fine." That phrase hit me like a jolt. She had circumvented me, going to my mother before consulting her own husband. "When was this?" "Yesterday. I called to confirm an extra guest and explain the situation. She totally understood." My jaw clenched. "Courtney, that's not the point. You should have asked me first. It's awkward to invite an ex to a family holiday." "It's only awkward if you make it awkward." Her voice sharpened. "He's going through a breakup, and I just want to support him as a friend. I need you to act more maturely." There it was, the golden phrase, "act more maturely." She used it every time she wanted me to concede. It turned me into an angry child instead of the husband whose wife had just unilaterally made a decision about our Christmas plans. "Fine," I finally said, putting the spoon down. "He can come." She instantly smiled, a winner's grin. "Thank you. I knew you'd understand." I didn't understand. Not at all. But I nodded and went back to the chili. That evening, after Courtney was asleep, I did something I wasn't proud of, but still don't regret. I took her phone. I know, invasion of privacy, breach of trust, but my gut was screaming that something was wrong, and I needed proof. What I found was worse than I expected. Courtney and Ryan had been texting constantly, multiple times a day for the past 2 months. While no single message was overtly compromising, the tone was too intimate. Lots of inside jokes, lots of "remember when," and lots of her complaining about me. But one message from 3 weeks ago made my blood boil. From Ryan: "I miss what we had. Things were simpler then." Her reply: "I know. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we tried harder." I screenshotted them, sent them to myself, and then meticulously deleted all traces. The feeling that overcame me wasn't jealousy. It was a cold, sharp clarity. She had lied to me about Ryan, and now she was inserting him into my family holiday. The next day, I decided to do my own investigation, and I found the real reason Ryan was going through a rough patch. It turned out she had completely fabricated the story about his recent breakup. In reality, Ryan got engaged 4 months ago. His fiancée Sophia was not only in the city, but actively planning their wedding. This was the information Courtney had deliberately hidden from me. And now I knew exactly who to call to blow up this awkward Christmas production. My first reaction when I discovered that Ryan wasn't just single, but officially engaged to a woman named Sophia Reed, was not rage, but cold, calculating determination. Courtney had lied about the motive. Ryan was lying to his fiancée about how he was spending Christmas. They were both playing a game, and I was the only victim. This had to stop, and it had to stop dramatically. I easily found Sophia's page on a social media site. She looked like a friendly, smiling woman. Lots of photos with Ryan. Trips to Woodlands Preserve, dinners at expensive restaurants, happy faces. There was even a Thanksgiving photo with the caption, "Thankful for this man and our future." It confirmed everything. My suspicions, the screenshots, and Courtney's lies. Sophia deserved to know her fiancé was lying to her about his holiday plans. I created a burner account that I would delete later. The message was simple and purely factual, devoid of emotion. Hi, Sophia. You don't know me. I am the husband of Ryan's ex-girlfriend, Courtney. She has invited him to spend Christmas with our family. From your posts, I see you are engaged, and I believe you should be aware of this. If you want to talk, here is my phone number. She replied to me in less than an hour. We quickly switched to texting. Sophia was shocked. She had no idea Ryan was going to celebrate with Courtney. He had told her he was invited to a corporate evening reception with colleagues. She was upset, but profoundly grateful. We talked for about 30 minutes. She explained that Ryan had been withdrawn lately, constantly on his phone, but she had blamed it on pre-wedding stress. I told her about Courtney's lies, her "act more maturely" phrase, and the suspicious messages. At the end of the conversation, driven by cold calculation and a desire to restore my dignity, I invited her to Christmas dinner. "Are you sure?" Sophia asked, surprised. "It'll be incredibly awkward." "Probably," I agreed. "But I'm tired of being lied to, and I believe we both deserve to know what's going on. I'm confident your presence will force them to explain why they're both lying to their partners." She agreed. There was no fury in her voice, only steely resolve. The next week passed under a pretense of normalcy. Courtney chirped about Christmas plans, what dishes we'd bring, and even whether we should buy Ryan a gift. That last idea almost made me laugh nervously. I only nodded, playing the role of the mature husband she demanded. Christmas Eve. Courtney was on cloud nine. She was constantly texting Ryan about arrival times and logistics. Late in the evening, I heard her talking to him on the phone, confirming he would be at my parents' house around 2 in the afternoon. Her voice was almost sickeningly sweet. Christmas morning. We exchanged gifts at home. She gave me a rare edition of a book I'd mentioned. I gave her an expensive bracelet. We exchanged smiles and kisses, pretending everything was perfect. We arrived at my parents' house in Brookwood around 1 o'clock. Mom, Alice, had outdone herself. A full turkey feast, 4 kinds of sides, fresh baked goods. Dad, George, was watching the football game. Caitlin was wrangling her 2 energetic children. It was warm, familiar, and I almost felt guilty about my impending plan. Almost. They chose lies, I chose the truth. Ryan showed up at 2:15 p.m. He brought expensive champagne and a floral arrangement that instantly charmed my mom. Courtney beamed when he walked in, giving him a hug that lasted 3 seconds longer than propriety demanded. I shook his hand firmly and with a smile said, "Good to see you, buddy. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it." We all settled in the living room. Ryan fit in perfectly. laughing at Dad's jokes, asking Caitlin about her job. Courtney constantly found excuses to sit next to him, to touch his arm when she laughed. I watched it all with a predatory calm. At 2:45 p.m., the doorbell rang. "I'll get it," I said, quickly getting up. I opened the door. Standing on the stoop was Sophia, in a dark green holiday suit, holding a bottle of wine. She looked nervous but determined. "You must be Ethan," she said. I smiled warmly. "Sophia, thank you for coming. Come in." I led her into the cozy living room. The reaction was immediate and devastating. I ushered Sophia into the living room, where the motionless scene of a typical American Christmas prevailed. When she stepped onto the rug, the tension seemed to gather in the corner of the room like a static charge before a thunderstorm. Courtney's reaction was striking. Her face turned as white as the snow outside. Ryan jumped up from the sofa so abruptly that his beer glass tipped over, leaving a dark stain on the carpet. "Sophia?" Ryan rasped, his voice cracking. "What are you doing here?" "I was invited," Sophia answered calmly, looking directly at me, not at him. "Ethan was kind enough to include me on the guest list when he found out you were spending Christmas with your ex-girlfriend." The room fell into absolute, deafening silence. Dad muted the TV. Caitlin, my sister, stared at us with wide eyes. Mom, Alice, looked profoundly confused. "Ethan." Courtney slowly rose, her face beginning to turn red. "What is this madness?" "This is Sophia," I announced pleasantly, as if introducing a new colleague. "Ryan's fiancée. Ryan, I don't think you mentioned to Sophia that you were here with Courtney. And Courtney, I don't think you mentioned to me that Ryan was engaged. So I thought we should all spend the holiday together. Act more maturely, so to speak." I used her own words, and they sounded like a verdict. Ryan looked like he wanted to dissolve into the wooden floor. "Sophia, I can explain everything." "Explain what?" Sophia's voice was now trembling with offense. "Explain why you told me you were going to a work reception? Explain why you're spending Christmas with your ex-girlfriend and her family without even mentioning me? Explain why Ethan had to be the one to tell me where you actually were." "It's not like that," Ryan began. "Then how is it?" She cut him off. Courtney turned to me, her face no longer just red, but crimson with anger and humiliation. "Ethan, you're crazy! You invited her fiancé to embarrass me." "I invited her because she had the right to know where her fiancé was. Just as I deserve to know that you've been constantly texting your ex, telling him you miss what you had." Her face went ashen. "You went through my phone?" "I did," I admitted, looking her straight in the eye. "And I found a lot of interesting conversations. Want me to share them with everyone?" Mom finally broke the silence. "What in the hell is going on here?" Caitlin, my sister, was the most practical. She quickly started recording everything on her phone. I didn't stop her. Ryan tried to approach Sophia. "Honey, please, let me explain. Courtney and I are just friends. She was going through a tough time and needed support." "I wasn't going through anything," Courtney snapped at him. "What are you talking about?" Their stories instantly crumbled. Ryan claimed Courtney needed emotional support. Courtney claimed Ryan was going through a rough patch. Neither version matched the other or what they had told me or Sophia. Both were lying, and both were caught. Sophia looked at Ryan with unconcealed disgust. "We're done. Completely done. Don't come home tonight. Don't call me. My brother will pack your things." She turned to me. "Thank you for telling me the truth. I'm sorry this ruined Christmas for your family, but I'm glad I know the truth." "You can stay for dinner if you want," Mom offered quietly. I thanked her internally for the support. Sophia shook her head. "I need to go." She walked out. Ryan stood still for another moment, then grabbed his coat and, without another word, followed her out. The door closed. Courtney stared at me with a mixture of fury and humiliation. I didn't let her speak. "I want a divorce," I said. "I've already contacted an attorney. You can stay with your sister until we sort out the housing." "Ethan," Courtney began. "No," I interrupted, raising my voice for the first time in the entire conflict. "You brought your ex to a family Christmas. You lied about the reason. You've been emotionally cheating on me for months. You made me feel paranoid about your own dissatisfaction. We are done." She looked around at my parents, at Caitlin, at the festively set table that had just become a crime scene, and I could see it hit her. She had no allies here. She grabbed her purse and, without saying another word, walked out. Christmas dinner was awkward, but we got through it. Mom kept apologizing for not asking more questions when Courtney called about Ryan. Dad said I handled that like a true Georgetown boss, which, coming from him, was the equivalent of a standing ovation. Caitlin reported that the video was already in our family chat. I stayed the night at my parents' house. Courtney sent me 17 texts, ranging from furious to pleading. I only replied to one: "Talk to my lawyer." The next day, I returned to our apartment with Dad and my brother-in-law to collect essentials. Courtney wasn't there, but she left a note on the kitchen counter. "I'm sorry. I didn't want this to happen. Can we talk?" I threw it in the trash. A week later, I met with my attorney in the Mission Hill area. I provided the screenshots from Courtney's phone, which the lawyer said were extremely helpful. I also had documentation proving I paid for most of our joint expenses, which was important for asset division. Courtney moved in with her sister. She tried to reach out through mutual friends, begging them to convince me to give her another chance. Most friends, upon hearing the full story, sided with me. Sophia contacted me a few days after Christmas. She thanked me again and confirmed she had broken off the engagement. She said Ryan tried to claim that nothing physical happened between him and Courtney, but the emotional betrayal was enough. According to her, she had dodged a bullet, as had I. Ryan, rumored, went crazy after the breakup. He blamed Courtney for ruining his relationship, and Courtney blamed him for ruining her marriage. Both were right. 2 months have passed. The divorce is going smoothly because Courtney doesn't want to fight. I think she's just embarrassed and wants it to be over. We are selling the apartment and splitting the assets 60-40 in my favor, considering my larger financial contributions. I'm living with my parents while I look for a new place. It's been a good, quiet time to process everything. Last week, Courtney sent me a long email. She apologized for everything, claiming she was lost and making terrible choices. She asked if we could ever be friends. I didn't reply. Sophia and I had coffee last week at the Harmony Cafe. It wasn't a date, just two people who had gone through something similar, comparing notes. She's healing, going to therapy, focusing on herself. She thanked me again, saying that if I had stayed silent, she would have married someone who would always choose his ex over her. Me? I'm okay. There are hard days, but I don't miss being married to someone who didn't respect me. My family constantly jokes that I won Christmas, and honestly, they're right. That dining room scene will be discussed for years. People ask if I feel bad about staging an ambush on Christmas. No, they chose to lie and sneak around. I only chose the timing of the truth coming out. If they didn't want to be shamed in front of family, they shouldn't have done shameful things.